Hi, guys. It's Faith. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited for this episode. We have a really great guest for you guys, and I'm excited for you guys to hear everything she has to share with you. Amanda, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am Amanda L. Grossman. Hello, hello. Thank you, Faith, for having me here. I've been in the Mastermind for about 2 years now, and you can find me over at moneyprodigy.com, where I help both parents and educators teach kids and teens how to manage their money before they get their hands on a paycheck from a real job.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here because one of the questions I get about the mastermind is like, what niches is it for? And I'm like, it's literally
Mm.
everything. Like we have like all different people with all
Yeah,
different
there are
things.
so many different kinds of niches in there. I've been
Yeah,
very surprised to hear what people are doing in there.
I think it's great though having different niches together. Like we just had someone that is in a DIY niche that did a really successful like craft summit, but it's structured a lot different than what I've seen in other kind of B2C niches. And so it's kind of like you get a peek of what's working in all the different niches and how you can apply it to
Yes.
your business. So I love that. So I wanted to have Amanda on because she recently did a reignite challenge in the mastermind. So inside the mastermind, every month we try to do some kind of challenge for members that will help them get motivated, right? We know it can be hard having a business, doing the work day after day, week after week,
By
month after month.
yourself.
Yeah, it's a grind, right? It's a real slog.
Yes.
And so we try to do something that's like, and we'll give out prizes and we'll do like different things. One of the challenges we did was a reignite challenge. You want to tell them a little bit about how you used it and what the challenge was?
Yes. And actually, I won one of the prizes that time too. Here's my rainbow timer. I don't know.
Oh,
For those of you listening, it is ultra cute. So, yay. Plus, I got my work done. Hey.
yay. Yeah, I'm like, I'll bribe
So,
you. I'm like, I'm not above bribing people, you know?
yeah. So what's really fun is actually this is my third time doing Reignite. And I didn't tell you this, but Reignite is how I joined the mastermind.
Oh,
So like 2 years ago, you ran Reignite for the first time, I think. I could be wrong on that, but I got so much done that I was like, okay, I got to go in the mastermind now. So on my second time doing Reignite, I've got two of my bingo cards anyway.
oh my
Um,
gosh. I love it.
So basically, I have to do a little backstory with my business to make it make sense.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this. So I've been at this for 13 years now, and my main traffic sources are organic Google traffic source, and then I've pivoted to Pinterest about 3 or 4 years ago as well. So about, I would say, 70% of my traffic and my revenue comes from Google traffic. And back in the fall, in September, I was one of the small blogging websites hit by the HCU update. The Google algorithm update was this huge thing. Tons of bloggers now have lost like so much of their traffic.
Yeah.
So I lost about 60% of my traffic at that point. And that took a couple months to mentally wrap my head around, especially since nobody knew how to recover from it. Nobody knew like what does helpful content really mean if you didn't think my content was helpful anyway. So that
Yeah.
was a lot. And then in March, we got hit again on the same HCU, another core algorithm update. I lost another 20% of my traffic just like that. And so in January, between those two times, when I finally got my head wrapped around what I wanted to be doing, I came to the conclusion that since nobody had recovered, as of March, nobody had recovered any traffic from the HCU. If you were hit, you were hit. You got the classifier on your site, you didn't recover anything. I decided, okay, how do I want to handle this? Because I have to move forward somehow. And so the way that I wanted to handle it was I wanted to be able to look in my eyes in the mirror and say, I tried everything that I could. So I decided that I was going to go back through and do a site content audit, 3.0, I call it, because this is my third huge site content audit that I've done on both of my brands since 2018 was my first one. And I was like, look, I'm going to go through and I'm going to, work on all of these things to make my posts as best as I know how to make them, make some changes that I think Google's going to look favorably on and that sort of thing. And in the meantime, I can also create more Pinterest images and that sort of thing and get Pinterest going even further. And that was my main goal, is like, I want to be able to say, I have tried my best. And so my really pie in the sky goal was to get this done for 2 brands, about 400 blog posts on the one site, 300 blog posts on the other site by June 12th, because my son's last day of school is June 12th. And I was like, I need the summer to work on other stuff. Like, this is a gigantic project anyway. I don't want to give up my whole year doing it. Like, I need a deadline. So I moved forward, just really, grinding away at this project. And it was my main thing for several months. And it was a lot. And I created a lot of pins going forward. And so that was really great. Then comes Reignite. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to help me get back some motivation, because at that point I had been grinding on this project for months and months. And let me tell you, I mean, it's a bear to do a site content audit anyway. And so Reignite came and I was like, okay, great. So I started like working on some of the things, and I was doing like the daily journaling. Granted, I didn't do it every day, but I was doing some journaling, which is more than I was doing before, and that sort of thing. And then about halfway through, like, I was listening to some of the coaching and the modules and stuff. And I was like, Faith is totally right when she says a project will take as long as you allow it to. And like, I had known that before, but it's always good hearing these reminders, from people who are kind of in your position. And so I was like, screw this. I don't want to like take the entire time up to when my son gets out of school and then summer starts and I'm like in this, position where I'm like, what do I do? And I have to, I'm trying to entertain him and figure out what to work on next to my business and all that. So I was like, I'm going to give myself an extra month. Like, I want a whole month between when I finish this daggone project and when he gets out of school. And so I reset my deadline to May 12th. And even though that was like double pie in the sky to get that done at that point, I felt like I could, as long as I stayed focused and energized around it. Of course, even beyond Reignite Challenge. And so, like I said, I won the timer. That was really cute. So I was happy about that.
Amanda posted in the group and I was like, you have to come on the podcast and we have to talk about this, because I think a lot of people, when they hear like we teach mindset, right? And Reignite, it's not a traditional productivity goal setting kind of program, right? It's really mindset focused. It really is focused on like the energetics. Like, I love that you said it, like, I need to stay energized around it and focused. And that's really what it is, right? It's like, how can you stay energized around what you're doing, keep your energy lined up with what you want, use that passion, use that excitement, and be really focused to get results. I think a lot of people think like, oh, like, I don't want the mindset stuff. I just want the strategy. Like, oh, I don't want that. But then I'm like, but how many courses do you have that you haven't even finished? Like, or how many things do you could implement in your business? You already know the strategy and you haven't done it. And it's like the mindset stuff is what gets that done, right? Like, what were some of the thoughts like you used, or what were the mindset shifts you think that allowed you to get that done so quickly?
Oh, well, first of all, the first one wasn't exactly a mindset shift. So, I mean, I had lost probably 80% of my revenue, like, along with many other bloggers. And so that was more so just like, oh my gosh, I have to do
Urgency.
something
Yeah.
different. Like, this is obviously not where I wanted to be at this point. And I know I'm not the only one. I mean, this happened
I
to
have to
thousands.
pause you there. And I need people that are not making money, I need you to understand, like, when you have a business, like, and this is going to happen, like, because the online space is very unstable. And with AI and stuff, I'm like, who knows what it's going to look like a year from now? It's going to be this is really unprecedented, the amount of money that's being pumped into AI and tech right now. And I'm expecting a lot of changes. And so I think like a lot of people will have these changes happen in their personal life or their business or something. And then they're just kind of like, well, I can't build my business anymore. But like, when you have a business like that you run and you rely on and other people rely on, you really take your brain to a place of like, we have to make some shit happen here.
Yeah.
Like, and so that sounds like you were like, okay, like, and I've coached you and a lot of people on that update. I know it was very emotional at first, but then everybody kind of was like, okay, but like, we have to bring in revenue.
Right, right. And thankfully, I had started pivoting and diversifying my traffic the year earlier. I did this big project called my Great Pinterest Revamp. And thank the Lord, because that really made Q4 not so dire, which
Yeah.
gave me a good start to Q1 of this year. Yeah, so there was that. And I almost felt like I was, this sounds really weird, but I almost felt like I was being jailed by Google, by the algorithms, by whatever, but I had the key. So I was like, I can literally say, I want the deadline to be a month earlier, and it will literally feel like I've got to get out of jail pass card.
Yeah.
Like, I will feel like, oh, such a clean slate, and I get to move forward. And so that was definitely part of it. I was like, this is a gift I am giving myself this month. And it really, really did feel like a gift. And
Only because of how you were looking at it, though, right? Because you could have been like a total victim about it. I mean, I talk about this all the time. My brain loves to be a victim, right? So,
yeah.
there are definitely those thoughts I'm sure were available to you about like, oh, this is so unfair, and I've been doing this for
Oh, yeah.
years, and this, I can't believe this, and I wasted all this time. But then to reframe it about like, how can I feel empowered around this? Like, these are the circumstances, right? And so arguing with reality is not going to get us anywhere. These are the circumstances. This is what happened.
Right.
Like, what do I want to think about it? And like, what's the story I want to tell? It's a lot more empowering to be like, I have the key. They put me in jail, but I have the freaking key, right?
Yeah.
Than like, oh, this is all out of my control and that's it, right?
Yeah. And to be really, really clear, it took me several months to get there, mindset wise,
Yeah.
because wow, you just lose, like, I mean, I've been at this for 13
It's
years, and
devastating.
it was really devastating. I got to a point where I realized, and this is oh gosh, what is that movie with the guy with the white mask, and he sets oh,
Oh
what's her
gosh,
name
V for
free?
Vendetta.
Yes, yes, this
I
is
can't believe
so
I got
weird.
that. My brain like can't
Good
really
job.
pull
Good
things that
job.
fast.
Okay. So if you think about it, when he does all of those things to her, and then at the end she realizes that, it was all fake or whatever, but no matter the worst that someone could throw at her, she's okay. That's how I came out of this, because even though I had lost like 80% of my revenue, and I went through the, updating all of my content and all of that, what I have realized in those months that it took me to wrap my head around this is, yeah, Google like it, my business might have been like, take it like decimated a good bit, but it's not gone. Like, I didn't lose my business. I'm not starting back where I was 10 years ago. I'm having to rebuild and to rethink the business model and to pivot. So once I got to that point, I was like, kind of like, F you, Google. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I'm not going to like continue bowing to your whims all the time when nothing I ever do is good enough, basically. And so
Yeah. Yeah, and then
sounds
so
like
you
a
just
bad relationship, but hey.
we're in an abusive relationship with the
Yeah.
Google algorithm.
So, and
I
here's the thing, I am so thankful that I did that, because even now, this core algorithm update they just did in August, where they mentioned that they were going to help us smaller bloggers because they realized how royally they screwed things up. We've only gotten back like 10% to 15% of our traffic. Not everyone has gotten that back either. And so I realized that I could have taken that extra month. I could have taken until the end of the year to really do this project, but it would not have mattered to the outcome of it. And so I totally made the right decision.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting with a project like that too, because a project like that could take a year, could take multiple
Absolutely.
years. Like, it
Yes.
could just take forever, right? And this is something we talk about a lot in the mastermind, but it's this idea of like things take the amount of time that you give yourself to do them.
Yes.
And this is
Yes.
a great example of this, right? Because you were like, I'm going to give myself till the beginning of summer. And then you're like, no, I'm actually going to do it a month early. And so for everybody listening, I would think about like, what projects have you just been letting drag on and on and on? And like, can you decide it's not actually going to take that long, right? That you're
Yeah.
just going to get it done. And I think that's an amazing skill to have as a business owner. I mean, it's hard. And a lot of people don't believe me when I say this, but the example I always use is like, people will come on the coaching calls and they'll be like, I don't have time for my business. And I'm like looking at what they're doing. And I'm like, what are you spending your time doing? And they're like, well, my email newsletter takes me 5 hours to write on Friday. And I'm like, you can't do that. Like, you cannot afford to do that. I'm like, you cannot, you literally cannot, your business cannot afford 5 hours for that newsletter. It needs to be like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, like that's it.
Yeah.
And people, when I say that, really push back because they're like, no, Faith, it just takes 5 hours though. Like that's how long it takes, as if like time is something that happens to you. And what we try to get people to think about is like, you decide how long that takes. If you decide you're going to get it done in 40 minutes, yeah, you might not do it the first few times. You might have to come up with a new system, or you might have to figure out a new way of doing it or a new way of thinking about it. But eventually, you will be able to get it done in 40 minutes. Whereas if you just let it, you're just like, oh, it just takes 5 hours and this is all out of my control, you'll never get faster at it. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tasks like that in your business. If you start looking at the tasks that you spend too long on, can you give yourself less time to do them? And I think that that is a really, really valuable skill for entrepreneurs, is like doing things in less time. And I decide how long things take, right? And I don't have to let the project take a year.
It's the closest we can get to creating our own time. It
Yeah.
really is. It's, and I just experienced it and it was so expansive. Oh my gosh. In fact, I made a list of all the things that I did in that 1 month that I would not have done had I still been working on that project. So like in that 1 month, I had all of this energy and momentum coming off of this huge project. And like I said, it felt so expansive that I was like, and then I thought, oh, I get to work on these things that I actually want to work on now. This is amazing. So I feel like
This
I
is
had really good
You guys
momentum.
have to think about this, what she just said, because this is like mind blowing to a lot of people. Because a lot of people were like, well, if I push hard and I'm like trying to do things faster, I'm going to be more tired and I'll get less done. Whereas you're saying, like, no, like getting the project done and giving myself
Oh,
less
it was
time and being
hugely
focused
expansive. Oh my goodness.
energizes you. I think when people are slow, I think that leaks your energy. Like spending 5 hours doing one task or spending a year doing a project, like that leaks your energy. When you're like, no, I'm getting it done. I'm going to be fast. I'm going to be efficient. I'm going to be focused. That gives you more energy moving forward. And I think that's also a really important point in this conversation, like what you just said.
That project was such an energy leak for me. Oh my goodness. It's like every week convincing myself to like do it, do like 6 posts today, do 5 posts today. You can get 1 more post in before your son comes home, like, from camp or whatever. Oh my gosh, well, not camp, he was in school at the time, but oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it was such a mental, like just Olympics trying to get through that, which
Every
like, I'm
entrepreneur is going to
so
go
glad I
through
did
that.
it.
Yeah. I think every entrepreneur is going to go through that, where it's like you
Oh
have a
yeah.
big project that you just have to get done and it's a slog.
Yeah.
And how are you going to handle that? Like, and are you going to just let it take the time it takes, or are you going to really start setting deadlines and being more focused? And I'm always like, time is money in this game, right? So one of the things I teach a lot is like, be faster. It's like, and people are scared because they're like, what if it doesn't work? And I love what you said about like, you're like, at least I'll know it didn't work now instead of spending the whole year doing it and then it not working. Like, at least I only wasted the first half of the year instead of I could have wasted the entire year, right? And
Absolutely.
so I'm
Absolutely.
always like, get that stuff done. And if it doesn't work, like you want to know that sooner rather than later. That's like information you need as an
Yes.
online business owner. What would be your
Yes.
tips for somebody that has a big project right now and they're like, they feel like they're in the Project Olympics and they're feeling it's a slog and
Oh
they're
my
in the
gosh.
suck of it? What would you say to help them get it done?
I mean, some of this is going to sound really cliche, but I'm being very specific because I just did this. So the first thing is to like figure out why you want to do it. Like, what is the internal motivation that's going to keep you going? Because I'm telling you, I dawdled and dawdled and dawdled when it was like, oh, just trying to get back into Google's good graces and maybe I'll get rankings back. But as soon as I figured out that I was like, no, I want to know no matter what happens in my business a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever, like I did the best that I could. And that's just how it is. Like, so there was nothing else that I could have done. And that gives me peace of mind. And then secondly, you've got to come up with some sort of like system, KPIs, tracking things, something like that. I started with a list in my notebook and I thought, okay, one thing that will motivate me is to figure out percentages. So how will I know when I'm 10% done this job? How will I know when I'm 20% done? Like if I could start counting the percentages, I could see that it's moving forward, because
Yeah.
otherwise it feels like just one blog at a time. And it's just so what I ended up doing though is I moved it to I have this sheet in Excel called my Master Biz DNA. And it's got every single blog post that I've ever created, including the ones that have been deleted, the ones that have been, sent to a new URL or redirected. And it has notes across it for like, what are the Pinterest keywords that I've targeted, and the title of it, the category, like all of these things. And I decided that I could set up a system in there when I could put, if I go back through and put the first published date by hand for every single post for both of the sites, then I could say, okay, I'm going to go back in and do this site content audit for every piece of content that has not been touched in 2 years, for the last 2 years, which turned out to be like 70% of both of my sites, which was, that was good information, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I started out with. So it wasn't in the entire 400 and 300 blog posts or whatnot. It was like 60% of the one and 70% of the other. And then I set it up so that it automatically colors when I'm over that 700 some odd days, that's 2 years, on any blog post going forward. And then it automatically has in the top left corner of the sheet for both brands what percentage of my blog posts have not been touched for 2 years, so that I can stay on top of it moving forward, even if it's just, hey, I should remarket this piece, or I should turn it into something new going forward. Whereas before, it's like I was just willy-nilly going through the sheet, and yeah, it was set up well, but I was just like, okay, we'll work on this post today, or oh, we'll work on this post, not knowing like, hey, that post hasn't been touched for 800 days. Maybe you should look at that one.
That's a good point too. It's like, so it's not just like doing random big projects or doing random things in your business, right? Or it's like really looking at and evaluating, where do I think the leverage points are right now? And let me like really hammer down on that and test it, right? Because you were being very strategic. Like, yeah, it was a big project, but you were being very strategic in where you were putting your time and energy. And I see a lot of online entrepreneurs just doing, all kinds of stuff. They'll be like, oh, they're doing Pinterest one week and this niche another week, and like changing all this stuff all the time. And I'm always like, you have to be strategic about the things that you're doing, right? You can't just like try whatever. It's like
Yeah.
looking at, what do I think will really move the needle forward? And you're gonna have to guess. Like Amanda's like, I don't know if I'm gonna get my traffic back. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I want to know that I tried, right? And that's a really good thought I think most of you guys can borrow. I love that thought you gave of like, I want to know I did everything I could. And even if you're not going after Google traffic and you're just trying to get your online business off the ground, like, a lot, so not all businesses are successful. It's possible like you could fail, but I'm always like, I want to know, like you, I'm like, I want to know, like I did everything I could. I don't want to get to the end of my life and be like, I wonder if I could have been an entrepreneur. It's like, I want
Mhm.
to find that out, right? Like, I want to know if I do everything I can, what will happen, right? And I think that's a really good mindset to be in around these big projects.
Yeah, for sure. So system of some sort is really important. And then what I would do is I would get some ideas for new blog posts, or see some gaps where I could like, do a different blog post. Not often, but I would put those down in sort of like a blog post parking lot ideation area I have in that same sheet, so that I wouldn't get too bogged down with that. Because even though my brain was like dying to create new content at that point, I even allowed myself to do like one piece or something like a month, because I was like, I just really want to do this,
Yeah.
just to keep my own little motivation going. But so I had that. And then when I finished each blog post, I did Pinterest keyword for each one and created like 2 or 3 new pins was sort of my goal, and stuck that in a folder. And so at the end of the project, I had like 3 months worth of Pinterest content as well, which was really cool. That gave me even more breathing room since the summer was coming up. So that was nice. And yeah, I think honestly, the third thing is I had to stop reading as much doom and gloom, like going down the rabbit holes about what Google is doing, and realizing that for me, I was like, yeah, there is absolutely nothing that can be done about not only Google's core algorithm update, but oh yeah, the AI stuff that has been layered on top of all of this. Like, and then Gemini came out, which just generates answers from all of our content, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I can do about that kind of stuff. What I can do is create content that AI can't even touch. So I became way more creative in my, more printables that I was hand creating, more project ideas. And I was really proud of myself. And on top of that, I really changed my approach, which me saying this is like incredible at this point. Like I started out the year with all of the Amazon links. I don't, other bloggers would understand this, but the Amazon links no longer allowed you to use that straight site strip image. And I had like probably 1,000 of those images in my blog posts across 2 brands. And so I had all of these bins of product, and I was like, I'm gonna take my own photos. I had started like photography last year. It was a brand new thing and here again, like you say, you never thought you would be on video. I never was going to do photography. Forget it. I mean, I was like, no way. And so for me to like shoot these images of each of these products and this is hundreds of products. And throughout my SEO or the SC, my site content audit 3.0, I added in all of my own product images. I probably have like, I would think 500 by now on both sites. And I took a photography course. Oh my gosh. I found a course on iPhone photography for like $29, and my photos are so good now. And I just
iPhone
like,
camera is crazy. It's so good. It's such a
it's so
like
good. Like,
so
so
good.
you don't need to buy like a $700 camera. I was like, all right, count me in. I'll try it now. And so all of these changes came about because this external situation that I had no control over. And so I feel really good about these changes. And now it's just part of my process that when I write new content or I get ideas or I'm in the store, like I'll even take some pictures in the store because I know that I can use that for like a new, idea later or something like
Oh,
that.
it's
And
so
so,
smart.
yeah, so
And
this
now
process,
those photos you own, right? So Amazon
yes,
can do whatever, and you're like, but I own that. I have my own photos
exactly.
that I own, and they can't be like taken down or something.
And the cherry on top is Pinterest is really into images, and they really like it when you have your own images. So now I've like redone all of these pins that I did for these posts
Yeah.
with new images that I took. And I think that that's really boosted the traffic that I'm getting from there.
That's a really good point. And I'm sure like you guys, AI is going to know everything. Like they already know if that's a photo you took from Amazon or like your own actual photo. So that's a really good point too. I think
Yeah.
it's really important. Like I coach a lot of people and I'm always thinking about what makes entrepreneurs successful. What's the difference between the people that come into the mastermind and just, we see it, like we have people in there that take off and we have people in there that struggle. And I'm always like, what is the difference? And I really think one of the biggest differences is entrepreneurs and people that are successful with these businesses, they really focus on the things that they can impact. And they're always looking at they don't spend a lot of time thinking about the stuff outside of their control, thinking about the things in their life that are hard. I'm always like, life is hard and unfair. Like it's like I'll be the first to tell you that, right? I'm like, it is brutal at times. But the entrepreneurs I see that are successful, they just keep it moving. It's like life can kind of dish them whatever in their personal life, in their business. And they just are like, they take their time to grieve about it and be upset. But then at the end of the day, they're like, but I'm not like going down though. Like we're going to figure this out. Where are the leverage points? And they just go back to testing things. They just come up with ideas and they test things and they do it quickly, right? They're not going to spend years. Like you could have walked away from that business for years after that happened. I remember when that happened because I coached you and a bunch of people. It was like a Google algorithm crisis call. I didn't know that the algorithm had even updated. And then all of a sudden there's like 8 people on the coaching call,
Yes.
very distraught, right?
Yes.
And you could have been like, you could have walked away from your business. You could have
Yeah,
put it down for years, right? And not come back. But after you process those emotions, you're like, okay, but like, where are the leverage points? What can I control? Let's get to getting here and get right back to it. And I think that is a really, really important characteristic to have when you have a business.
for sure. And so I've been at this for, I think actually 14 years or 15. Oh my gosh, 2009 is when I opened up my blog. And the changes that have happened in that span of time is just
It's
unbelievable.
insane.
And it's coming faster now that like it used to be the same for like 5 years, and now like maybe it's the same for like a year. Like, you know what I mean? And for me,
Yeah.
I always say this. I'm like, oh, God made me a blogger online and a mother because he knows I hate change. And he put me in this position where I am constantly bombarded with change. And so I'm learning to adapt and to pivot. I would like to think I'm getting faster at being able to do it, but I feel like a dinosaur many times, just like one of those people like, but it used to work, you know? And so, yeah,
That's a
it's
good point, and I agree
on the
with you.
change.
I've been online, I think, 7 years, and I think about like the things and strategies we were doing are just completely different than what they are
Completely
now. Like the
different.
things that work now, the things that used to work just don't work. And like so the things we're doing are very different. And like I
Yeah.
said, I think with all the money being pumped into tech, it really is like unprecedented for just billions and I mean just an obscene amount of money to just be pumped into tech like it is I
Yeah.
don't know what that's going to do. And with the AI stuff, like I do think there's a lot of changes coming and I don't want to freak you guys out, right? It just means like we're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to be ready to pivot quickly. And I think all of us are going to have to like very quickly throw out things that used to work and just keep it moving. And it's not going to be the same as it was. And
Yeah,
yeah, I
which
agree
is
with
so
you.
scary, which is so scary. Like I'll be the first to say that, you know, it's like I work scared sometimes. I work overwhelmed. I work like doubting, but I know that I've been there before in my business. I mean, that's part of entrepreneurship is like doubting yourself, oh, like constantly,
That's
you know?
why this is why I love the mastermind. And I had someone tell me the other day, they were like, do you ever feel like because people are coming onto these calls overwhelmed and stressed out and upset and crying or whatever, do you ever feel like that reflects on you as the coach in the program that it doesn't work? And I was like, no, I was like, this is like normal entrepreneur shit. I was like, this is that makes me
Yeah.
happy because we're talking about the real experiences of what it's like to have a business. And
Yeah.
to your point, it's like normal to doubt yourself. And I think it's so good when somebody comes on and they are having a hard time. Not that I'm happy they're having a hard time, but it's good for the rest of the community
Oh yeah,
because
because
I
we're
know
all
there's
going
other
through it.
people. I know there's other people that are going to listen to that replay or
Yeah.
are on the call that are like, "Oh my God, like I'm not the only one that is
Yeah.
afraid. I'm not the
It's
only
like the
one."
water cooler for us entrepreneurs. Like, oh, so your traffic tank too? I know, I
I
know.
always say it's like a, well, I used to be a social worker. So I always say, well, now I still run support groups. I just run them for entrepreneurs. So
And we
instead of
need
like for
support.
domestic violence, it's like a entrepreneur support group now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. I think for all of you guys listening, just know you're going to have your own version of the Google update, even if you're not somebody that's going after Google traffic, you're gonna at some point in your business have a strategy that works really well that stops working and you're going to have to make some really big hard decisions and that's just true for all of us. It's just universal
I feel
entrepreneurial
bad for
truth.
saying this, but now everybody, all the Google SEO people have flipped to Pinterest. And Pinterest is wonderful, but I was there when they tanked their traffic for like tons of people too. They tanked it, like your traffic gets tanked there as well. It was like what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And the new
Yeah.
people that are coming over, like they think that this is a gold mine, and it, you know, it can be for a while, but they don't realize that they pulled their own levers over there, and like your traffic can just like disappear
Well,
overnight
and
as
they, yeah, that's a whole separate thing. But with something like that, that's like a private company. So I believe
well.
like when that happened, they were going through like real big, like the president changed and the mission changed and everything they were doing changed. And it was like all of a sudden the stuff that ranked didn't rank anymore. And there was a time where they were trying to just be an e-commerce platform where they were just trying to sell
Yeah.
stuff on there.
They've gone through
So
so many phases so far. And just the point being that like it's like every algorithm and platform can do this at some point.
they're gonna
It,
have
I
like
guess it's just none of us saw Google. Like we didn't see that coming. Maybe we saw us losing rankings here and there like we always do, but we didn't see that they would just basically wipe out small bloggers.
no, I don't think anybody saw that coming. Well,
Yeah.
Google was always like, if you can rank in Google, that's like the stablest
Yeah.
business you can have. Like that was the idea. And it just goes to show things that used to be stable can become unstable. You know, platforms that maybe didn't work become great opportunities for people. Everything
Yeah.
changes in this game, and you just have to be able to adapt and adapt quickly. And I just to leave you guys, like one of the thoughts I use is like, I'll always figure it out. Like when I start thinking about, if I start thinking about that, I have $14,000 of expenses to run my business that hit the account every month, right? When I think about that amount of money that I'm responsible for and all of the things that could happen it will cripple me, right? But I just have to be like, no matter what, like me and my team, we're here to stay. We'll figure out something. And that's just how it is. It's just like I will be successful. I will overcome. I know that there will be hard times and good times, just like all things in life. It's like there's hard things in business and there's good things in business. It's all 50-50. But I am committed and I do believe in like my own ability to problem solve and my team's ability to problem solve. And that gives me peace of mind. So if you guys are listening to this, it's just you can figure it out. It's okay. And the other thing I think about is like good. Like I hope it's hard because more people are going to quit and like I'm still going to be here. So
I have
good.
started thinking that, and I think it's a positive thought for me.
It can be good, right? You got to just
Because there's
see. I
a lot
mean,
of people that just got into it, just solely for the money, and they think it's going to be a quick thing, like a quick win thing. And it's
yeah, it's like
like,
get those people
no,
out
you
of here.
got
It's
to
like
be
I've
in here,
been
man. You got
here.
to be in it.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been here. I've been trying to help people with this stuff. I've been talking about this, mindset stuff and the same stuff even when I had the mental health block. I'm like, I've been out here for years. Yeah, it's like everybody that comes in wanting a cash grab. I'm like, you can keep it moving. Like, get these people out of here, and the rest of us that are here will be here, and that's how it is. And you guys can overcome anything. Like there will be changes, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Like the other side of that is like with the AI and with the tech, I think there's going to be like unprecedented amounts of opportunity. Like there will be new millionaires grown out of these changes that come. And so with every change, like, there's good things and there's bad things. And don't let the instability freak you out because there's always a way. There's always another way. But thank you.
I just, oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just remembered one more mindset thing that is so big, and I
Yeah.
can't
Tell
believe
me.
I forgot it. What I thought was, I looked back to my records at what I was earning back in like 2017 and realized that I would have cried tears of joy to still be getting what I'm getting right now back then. And that really fueled me forward as well.
That's a really good perspective shift, right? It's like, yeah. And even if you guys aren't making money, I always just think like, there's people that have worse problems. There's people that have it harder. No matter how hard you think you have it in business, there's somebody that's got it worse. And that makes me feel thankful at times where it's frankly difficult to access gratitude. It's not always easy for my brain to be thankful for certain circumstances. And I agree with you. I think as my business has grown, it's really easy for me to be stressed out, to be overwhelmed, to be all these different things. But when I take a step back and look at what I have built and the opportunities I have, it's really, really amazing. So I think taking a step back, giving yourself some perspective, right? Our brains are so dramatic. Every single problem is like the worst problem and the biggest thing. But when you zoom out, you're like, wow, like I actually have a lot to be thankful for here. And you can really find that in any situation. Thank you so much for being here. And gosh, you dropped like so many gold nuggets. I really appreciate you coming and sharing this. You guys need to go stalk Amanda online. Tell people where to find you. And you had a freebie, right? So tell them about your free gift, tell them about your website. You guys listen, you guys go follow her. Like do me a favor. Go follow her. Give her some traffic. Jeez.
Hey, please. I'll take you. Yeah, so you can follow me, go to moneyprodigy.com, where I partner with parents and educators and help them teach their teens and kids how to manage their money. And then also I do have an adult personal finance site and frugal living called frugalconfessions.com. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there is a free teen budget worksheet that I will get the link to Faith, and that's really, really popular. So
I think that's amazing work that you're doing. And we're hiring a new accounting team. So I'm doing onboarding with this like bookkeeping team and stuff right now. And I was telling them, they were looking at different things in my business. And I was telling them, I didn't like really look at my books until like a year ago.
I
Like
believe
they're kind of
it.
like, what? I mean, like I'm saying, there's a lot of money flying around and stuff. And I'm like, I was telling them I grew up poor and like I never had any education around money. And
Yeah.
so I went and gave myself an education in marketing and how to make money. But even when you become a marketer, nobody tells you how to manage your books and how to look at your expenses and how to figure out, your P&L sheet and all this stuff. Like
Yep.
nobody teaches you that. So I was like, I felt like after I learned all the marketing, I had to learn the finance stuff. And like I said, I grew up poor. I never was around any kind of like financial strategy or anything besides like, buy food.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really important work that you're doing. You guys support her and teach your kids about money. It's really
Yeah.
don't let them
Come
grow
on
up to
over,
be 37 like
guys.
me. All right. Well,
Awesome. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
thank you so much for being here. This was a great episode. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.